What is up, DS3 TV? We are back for another video. This one is 101 facts about Grand Theft Auto. I have always loved this series. I don't understand why did they not just make another game for PS5, and they just decided to have like a big announcement about the same game that they put out for 3 straight console generations and just updated graphics. I don't understand why, but yeah, let's get into it. Yeah, I love this channel too, and yeah, let's get into it and play.
The fact is, my name is Sam, and today we're going to be stealing stuff and cooking fools and creating general mayhem throughout the decades as we go through one of the most successful franchises of all time, Peppa Pig. Yes, that's next week, sorry. I mean Grand Theft Auto. We've looked at some of the games in detail, sure, but what about a general history of the franchise that changed gaming? Well, here it is, call it an early Christmas gift. But how did GTA generate and utilize controversy on purpose? Which Grand Theft Auto urban myth turned out to be real? And why haven't I been given a full driver's license despite the fact I can drive around Los Santos for 5 minutes without crashing or anything? 2 out of 3 of those questions are going to be answered, so pack your pockets full of bullets as we go to several places all around the world, mainly America though, dribbling with commentary and irony as we go through 101 facts about Grand Theft Auto, the franchise. Number 1. So what is Grand Theft Auto, apart from being a crime that can give you about 16 months in prison?
That is true. Or more, depending on what else you do after you commit Grand Theft Auto.
Well, Grand Theft Auto, or GTA for short, is a video game franchise that started its bloody existence all the way back in 1995. Number 2. It began as a PC game called Race and Chase, developed by DMA Design, who would, like a Pokemon, evolve into Rockstar North. Race and Chase originally was a cops and robbers game where the player would choose to play as either the cops, or get this, the robbers.
That's so weird. Like to think about they changed the game that much. Like from that into what GTA is now.
Number 3. While testing, a bug was discovered that caused police NPCs to start ramming players off the road, which actually proved to be more popular and exciting than playing by the straight-laced law. Developers realised it was more fun to just play as the criminals, and thus GTA as we know it was born. Number 4. By the way, leaping a little bit ahead here, but Race and Chase does appear in Grand Theft Auto, but in GTA Online, in an arcade game that can be found in the Diamond Casino Heist. The logo of this arcade game bears a significant resemblance to the original GTA logo, don't you think? Number 5. When Grand Theft Auto was originally released in 1997, it was solely on PC until a PlayStation 1 version was released a few months later, which was kind of Rockstar. Oh sorry, no, not Rockstar, because Rockstar didn't exist yet.
Yeah.
Number 6. You see, Rockstar Games wasn't created until a year later in 1998, after Take-Two Interactive acquired the assets of BMG Interactive, who published Grand Theft Auto. DMA Design was swept up in this acquisition too, and were later renamed Rockstar North. They later acquired Angel Studios in November of 2002, becoming Rockstar San Diego. Number 7. The PC version actually gave 8 choices of playable characters, 4 men and 4 women. When the game was released on PlayStation, the female playable characters were removed, and GTA is still yet to have another female lead playable character, unless you specifically make one on GTA Online, that is.
That's insane, honestly, wow. Huh, I never thought about that.
8. In fact, there's only one female main antagonist in the series too, Catalina in GTA 3. There's also Molly Schultz in GTA 5, but she's pretty minor. Come on Rockstar, women are evil too. Actually, in isolation that sounds pretty bad, that wasn't the point I was making.
I'm about to say, don't actually say that point.
Right. But before it influenced everything else, GTA had influences of its own, and one of them was Pac-Man, according to David Jones, one of the producers of the first game. That sounds weird, but actually when you look at them side by side, it does make sense a bit. Number 10. Anyway, in this Pac-Man inspired crime fest, there are 3 unlockable locations, Liberty City, Vice City and San Andreas. The names are about as much as the locations have in common with their later PS2 and 3 era counterparts. Number 11. Also, hey, look at this front cover. See that skyscraper tower? Do you recognise it at all? Well, you should, because that's actually Trump Tower. Wow, did GTA predict, all this? I mean, I don't know how that would work, but people have run articles on less. Number 12. In later games, you can keep what is essentially an arsenal in your back pocket. Kind of fittingly now I say it out loud, because arsenal. But in the original, you had far less. There are only 5 types of weapon available in this game: fist, pistol, machine gun, rocket launcher and flamethrower. Number 13. Actually, that's a lie. There's technically 7, because you can also burp or fart too. Though this had absolutely no effect on enemies whatsoever, so is it really a weapon? Just rude, isn't it, really? Number 14. The gameplay in GTA 1 was a little different to how we know GTA today. You could still go around and do anything, but in the first game you get points for general carnage and mayhem, and missions would give you multipliers for those points. Once you got enough, you could go somewhere new. Number 15. Something else that's ever so slightly different too was the fact you had lives in this game. If you ran out of them, that was your lot. Points reset and levels over. And if you happen to be without body armor, 1 bullet can take you out.
Oh, wow.
Honestly, and they say Dark Souls is hard. Number 16. There's also a Grand Theft Auto theme song which was created by in-house musician Craig Connor, as back in the Origin days, the developers didn't have the resource, money or support to feature well-known hits like we're used to today. Number 17. This Grand Theft Auto song, credited to Dash Shootaz in the game and called Joyride, kind of fitting really, plays in the main menu and on the radio of the first GTA game, as well as featuring on the soundtrack for GTA 3 on Lips 106. It's also a selectable ringtone in GTA 3 and 4. Best get that song to the hospital because it's pretty sick. Number 18. GTA 1 also contained the first of many controversial Easter eggs. You could get what was known as a Garanga bonus if you successfully killed all the Hare Krishna monks standing in a line, which, I mean, today would result in pandemonium. Number 19. Expansions to the first GTA game arrived 2 years later in the form of Grand Theft Auto London, never heard of it, it's a parody of Lancashire or something, in both 1969 and 1961 variants. These expansions are the only time that the GTA games have not taken place in fictional locations, and is the only non-American location throughout the franchise. Number 20. What with it being a different place, there are slight differences. For instance, you have to drive around on the left-hand side, like we do in real life. There's also an obligatory James Bond reference too, like all things in London have to have. It's a car called James Bomb. Bomber? No, Bomb. James Bomb. Number 21. London 1961 has the same protagonist as 1969, which may not sound like much, but actually marks a first in the series. These are the first consecutive GTA games that have the same protagonist. And it's yet to be repeated. That's something. Number 22. The first GTA was actually banned in Brazil. The higher-ups there said that it trivialises robbery and murder and could incite the younger players to violence, which is ridiculous, but okay.
It is kind of ridiculous, and you know, I would say, I always want to go to Brazil and stuff, but I know that it's like pretty dangerous parts in Brazil. I know it's dangerous parts in America too, but always heard that Brazil is pretty dangerous, so it was dangerous. It didn't change anything.
And so it was taken off the shelves, and anyone found selling it was fined $8,000.
Wow.
Number 23. Rockstar is no stranger to controversy, and in fact, that's on purpose. For the first game, Rockstar hired Max Clifford, a PR guru who claimed to be a master manipulator of the tabloid press. Clifford told a member of the British House of Lords about this scandalous new game made in Scotland about criminality, which led to political and media outrage right from the get-go. Number 24. An example of another tactic Clifford used was to use a story about a small car accident one of the writers went through and plant it in the News of the World newspaper, under the headline "Sick Car Game Boss was banned from driving" to generate more publicity. Number 25. And I guess that all worked, because 2 years later in 1999 along came GTA 2, released for the PlayStation, PC, Dreamcast and Game Boy Color. It's set in a place called Anywhere at an unspecified date and year. Anywhere has 3 districts, commercial, industrial and residential, that have mostly been claimed by various gangs. Wow, Rockstar really went there with the creativity this time, huh? Number 26. GTA 2 also opens with an actual movie. Well, kind of. The opening sequence is made up of excerpts from a live-action movie shot by Rockstar to promote the game. It involves the main character, Claude Speed, getting involved in all sorts of legally shady business. Number 27. Claude Speed is played by Scott Maslin, who some, and I mean some, of our UK viewers might know from playing Jack Branning in the London-based soap opera EastEnders. The soundtrack was made by drum and bass label Moving Shadow. Number 28. This movie not only features some iconic GTA features, like hiding in a pay and spray in order to lose the cops, it also introduces the respect system that comes into play with this game, with the 7 gangs and their turf throughout Anywhere City. Number 29. Some of these gangs are arch rivals, meaning that completing a mission for one gang will seriously peeve the rival ones. Sometimes these rivals won't even offer you another mission until you take out a member of that gang, and I don't mean for dinner, I mean for death. Number 30. Your reputation with these gangs can be tracked with meters in the top left of the screen, so you know who to avoid as you travel the city. If you do run into them, the more they hate you, the more powerful the weapons they carry to take you out are. Number 31. GTA 2 was also the first game to feature being pulled out of cars you've stolen by their owners, and police brawls with gangs, as well as the well-known wanted system as we know it now. Number 32. Forget being wasted in GTA, in the second installment you can be toasted. That's right, if Claude Speed dies after being attacked with a flamethrower or an electro gun, you'll be burnt to a crisp, and only your skeleton and a pile of ash will be left with the message toasted on screen. Number 33.
So instead of wasted, it's toasted.
As this is Rockstar, there are funny signs abound in GTA 2. Highlights include two car companies, one named Fu and the other named Wang, which I obviously can't say out loud, as well as a company called Max Paint, a reference to Rockstar's latest series, Max Payne. Number 34. Then in 2001 along came GTA 3, an incredible new three-dimensional scum and villainy experience for the PS2, at first. It was released to critical acclaim, and many have called it one of the best games of all time.
See, I kind of wonder what happened, because it's like they had such a good thing, and they were coming out with games, you know, relatively frequently. What happened to not, like, to just coming out with games, like, every generation or something like that? It made more sense to do it like that.
With others banding about terms like the most important game of all time. Blimey, it's not Rugrats Search for Reptar, lads. Number 35. What you'll notice about that release date is that it's very close to the tragedy that struck on the 11th of September 2001. As a result of that, some aspects of the game were changed very quickly, including a plane changing where it flew, kills becoming less graphic, and the look of police cars changing to be less realistic. Number 36. Something else that also had to change was the front cover of the game, as the team felt it was too raw post 9/11 as it featured explosions. This was then replaced with the tiled effect, which was inspired by movie posters from the 1960s, and this has since become a standard for the GTA series. Number 37. If you somehow use the Dodo and fly north past the Liberty City limits, you'll eventually come across a floating street named the Ghost Town. Apparently this was a location for an earlier bank heist that was never supposed to be found by players. Oh, Rockstar. Of course the players will find it. Number 38. Listen carefully to the radio in GTA 3 and you'll hear a mention for Carter City, which was the setting of another Rockstar North game called Manhunt, which for some reason I was never allowed to play. Number 39. If you complete 100 taxi fares in GTA 3, which by the way is something you can do taxi fares, you'll unlock the Borgnine taxi. Now I know what you're thinking, that sounds exactly like Ernest Borgnine, who played a cabbie in the film Escape to New York, which is the city that Liberty City's based on, and that's because, well, it is that, so, you know, well done you. Number 40. You can also find an Easter egg with a sign that proudly declares that you weren't supposed to be able to get here, you know, for the more intrepid of players. The same location in its prequel, Liberty City Stories, says,
"Hello again."
Oh my god, you're so cute! Holy
Number 41. By the way, you know the phrase shoot for the moon? Well, in GTA 3 onwards, you can literally shoot at the moon. With a sniper rifle, that is, causing it to change size.
that's cool.
This is now a near-traditional GTA Easter egg. The meaning of life. For those who were clinging on to the old past, GTA 3 included the 2D view style from the previous two games. Thing is, this was a bit of a waste of time as basically nobody used it, which must have probably made a developer cry. And so GTA 3 was the last in the series to have that option. Number 43. Hey, look carefully at Liberty City Fire Department's motto. It's putting out since 1872, a truly lovely slogan that has absolutely no other meanings whatsoever. Number 44. There's also a billboard in Liberty City that reads, "See you in Miami." For those of you not familiar with GTA chronology, GTA Vice City is the next entry in the series, and where is Vice City based on?
Miami.
That's right, Bermuda. Oh, no, wait, I mean, number 45. Speaking of Miami, the next Steely Wheelie Automobile was released in 2002, with GTA Vice City, which had an all-star cast, including Ray Liotta, Burt Reynolds and Danny Dyer. Now, we've done a whole video on this game, and indeed San Andreas, GTA 4 and 5, so here are just some of the best bits. Number 46. Fans of Call of Duty and Grey's Anatomy, yes, it's a niche mix, but they exist, might recognise the voice of Jez Torrent, the lead singer of Love Fist in Vice City. He's played by none other than Kevin McKidd, voice of Soap McTavish in Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 and 3, and plays Dr. Owen Hunt on Greys. He was also in Trainspotting. Number 47. As it's set in the 80s, Vice City contains many different references to 80s media. For instance, there are outfits based on Miami Vice, its sort of namesake, and you can stumble upon a bloody aftermath in a bathroom very similar to that of Scarface.
Yeah.
Number 48. In fact, the whole character of Ken Rosenberg looks and is basically identical to Dave Kleinfeld in Carlito's Way. Number 49. It's hard to overstate just how popular Vice City was. On its first day of release, it sold 500,000 copies. By its second, it sold 1.4 million, which made it, at that time, the most popular video game of all time. It was eventually beaten, though, by the highest-selling game on the PS2, which was... number 50. Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, which was released to great acclaim in 2004, often being named as one of the greatest games ever made. As of 2011, it sold 27.5 million copies, and that was 9 years ago now. Number 51. A special short film, which was made within the GTA engine named Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, The Introduction, served as a prequel to the main story and was released with a special edition of the PS2 game, and can be seen on Rockstar's website for free. It has most of the main characters in it, including footage of CJ jacking cars in Liberty City. Number 52. Tommy Vercetti, the protagonist of Vice City, is even mentioned in this short film by his lawyer Ken Rosenberg, confirming he's still alive and well by the time San Andreas comes around. Which makes sense, because that guy can pack RPGs in his pockets. Number 53. If walking around the woods in San Andreas for a while, being the Easter egg hunter we've all been at some point, you could stumble across the Ghost Car. This car randomly spawns in these rural areas, often in places that causes it to roll downhill, and scare the bejesus out of us. Number 54. Next up, GTA Advanced. And no, I don't mean it's for advanced players among us. It's so named because it was made for the Game Boy Advance. It's the only Grand Theft Auto game, in fact, that Rockstar did not develop. Number 55. The gameplay was the same top-down style of the first two GTA games and is a prequel to GTA 3, explaining why 8-Ball was arrested at the start. I mean, we're all wondering, weren't we? Number 56. However, it being released so much later than GTA 3 did not do it any favours. Fans of the franchise were already in love with the 3D open world that had now become a staple of the franchise.
Yeah.
Number 57. Being on a Game Boy cartridge also meant there was limited storage compared to the TV consoles. This meant that unlike the multiple radio stations that were commonplace, advanced players would have a single instrumental song to listen to on the radio, and it definitely didn't get annoying very, very quickly. Number 58. GTA Liberty City Stories is next up, and is also a prequel to the third GTA game, set in 1998, 3 years before GTA 3. It was primarily released on the PSP, also known as the console that was way ahead of its time, and later was released on the PS...
I'm telling you right now, the PSP would have been the best game. I mean, it would have been the best game system for now. Like, if you think about like how the Switch is out right now, it literally was a Switch of its time. You could play with friends, but it was just too ahead of its time for anybody to actually think that it would be good. Because, yeah, honestly, the PSP and the PSP Vita, those two systems could have been really good. And especially with like the PS4 and PS5 out now, they could have been like really good like ports for like the games that you have now, like especially with streaming and stuff.
2, with iOS and Android versions following in 2015 and 16. Number 59. Brooklyn Nine-Nine hero Jolo Trulio stars as Vincenzo Chili, but he's not the only 9-9 alumnus to feature in the series. Chelsea Peretti, for example, played Laurie in GTA 4, and Fred Armisen played Hugh Harrison in GTA 5. Number 60. Vice City Stories followed the next year, as a prequel to, yes, that's right, Vice City. It was set in 1984, 2 years before the events of Vice City, and you play as Vic Vance, bad guy Lance Vance's brother. I've still never forgiven Lance Vance. Phil Collins is also in this game as himself, and you can go and watch his very, very low poly concert.
Okay.
Number 61. Vice City Stories was only available on the PSP to begin with, followed by the PS2. The PS2 port was almost entirely lifted from the PSP version, but with enhanced graphics and a few new side activities, including 5 side missions, 5 additional rampages, and a new Easter egg. I'm not going to tell you what it is. Number 62. In 2008, the world was graced with the HD era, starting with Grand Theft Auto 4, the first one to be made for the next generation of consoles, the PS3 and Xbox 360. Number 63. GTA 4 became the fastest selling entertainment product in history at the time of its release, earning $500 million in its first week alone. It also won a number of awards, including Game of the Year from a number of publications. If you want to find out more, we did a whole video on it, so moving on. Nintendo 64. Of course, we can't talk about GTA 4 without talking about The Lost and the Damned and the Ballad of Gay Tony DLC, so we can't move on yet past Sam. The Lost and Damned was released less than a year after GTA 4 was released, and Gay Tony followed just 9 months after that, like a big baby. Number 65. Bundled together as episodes from Liberty City, the two stories couldn't be more different. The Lost and Damned centres around gang warfare in Liberty City, and is far more gritty and brutal, whilst The Ballad of Gay Tony is a neon-lit drug-fueled party. What more could you ask for? Drugs are bad, by the way. Number 66. Do you remember the Nintendo DS? Well, if you wanted a break from Nintendogs, you could always play GTA Chinatown Wars, the only GTA game to be made for the Nintendo DS.
Wow.
Number 67. It was later released on PSP, and like Liberty City and Vice City Stories, Chinatown Wars made it onto iOS and Android platforms later down the line. Similar to GTA Advance, it was a return to the top-down style of gameplay, which, not many people were missing, so it got mixed reviews.
Yeah.
Number 68. The mixed reviews obviously didn't hamper Chinatown Wars too much though, as it went on to win Best Handheld Game at the 2009 Spike Video Game Awards and Best Nintendo DS Game 2009 from GameSpot. Number 69. Please. It's also the only single-player GTA game to star an Asian American protagonist, since players could choose Mickey as the protagonist in the first ever GTA. His name is Huang Li, and that's about all I know about him really. Number 70. Next up, the behemoth, that is Grand Theft Auto 5. Just like its predecessor, GTA 5 broke industry records again, earning $1 billion in its first 3 days alone. Again, it was nominated and won several Game of the Year.
But I don't even understand, they could have done more, because they could have just had another game come out along with the PS4, or maybe even 2. Because how they had been going is that they would have 2 games with every console. But it seemed like that they just wanted to they only want to focus on one game, even though they put out Red Dead Redemption and GTA that same exact year, around the same exact time. That's always been kind of weird about the Rockstar franchise to me.
The Gaming Awards, basically, it smashed it. Number 71. It went on to beat The Last of Us as the best-selling video game in 24 hours, and later became the best-selling video game of all time in the UK. Us Brits love some car theft and murder, apparently. It's the second bestseller in the world, after everyone's favourite Lego game, Minecraft. Number 72. GTA 5 came out in 2013, which is already insane, but also is the most expensive game ever made still. I don't mean it cost the most to buy, I mean it cost to create. Yeah. Estimates are that the game cost up to $265 million to make, remaining the most expensive even a few years later. Number 73. In fact, only 7 movies in history have ever beaten the production cost. Pirates of the Caribbean 3 and 4, Avengers, Age of Ultron, Infinity War, and Endgame, Justice League, okay, and Solo and the...
Justice League, that movie was pretty bad.
Rise of Skywalker from the Star Wars franchise. I'd say only a handful of them were actually worth it. Number 74. As of 2018, GTA Online has made GTA 5 the most profitable media title of all time, according to a study by MarketWatch. That's a revenue of
mind you, my favorite DC superhero is The Flash. But yeah, that movie was pretty bad.
$1 billion, it beats out Avatar and Avengers Endgame at $2.8 billion, and even Gone with the Wind, which totals around $4 billion with inflation. That's a lot of nuggets. Number 75. Ned Luke, who plays Michael in GTA 5, is the only known voice actor to gain weight for a voice acting role, putting on 25 pounds. He did this to give a more distinct impression of someone who hasn't been particularly active in the last few years. Now that's some dedication. Number 76. Let's take a look at some...
Do you really need that dedication when it comes to voice acting? I wonder, how much did it really help? I wonder. I mean, I guess it did help a lot, but it wouldn't seem like that.
Lovely egg.
Sorry. It wouldn't seem like that, at first glance.
Easter eggs, that is. I'm sure GTA veterans among you remember Tanner from GTA 3, in particular from Mission 2 Face Tanner. Well, Tanner also happens to be the protagonist from GTA Rival the Driver games, which have sometimes been called GTA clones. Number 77. In GTA, he's given a female walking animation to mock his walking style in Driver, and in a nice friendly rebuttal, Driver 3 includes a character called Timmy Vermicelli, a little nod to Tommy Vercetti, the protagonist of Vice City. Number 78. GTA also loves to reference their previous protagonists. In San Andreas, Claude Speed from GTA 3 appears, and much like his original character, remains silent, causing CJ to mock him. CJ is also called Tommy at one point as a reference to Tommy from Vice City, to which Siege responds, "Who on earth is Tommy?" although with different language. Number 79. Remember the GTA 3 Borgnine taxi reference? Well, there's more. In Vice City, the cabs are called Kaufman cabs, named after Andy Kaufman, who starred in the TV show Taxi, and in Liberty City Stories, the cab is called the Bickle 76, named after Travis Bickle, Robert De Niro's iconic taxi driver role in, well, Taxi Driver. Number 80. You can't talk about GTA without talking about the controversies that have been a huge part of the franchise's history. British MP Keith Vaz has regularly campaigned against the series, in particular GTA 5's torture sequence. He previously raised concerns about Rockstar's other property, Bully. Number 81. Other prolific politicians that have actively campaigned against the games are Hillary Clinton and Joe Lieberman, who co-sponsored the Family Entertainment Protection Act in 2005 to limit the kinds of games that could be sold and who they could be sold to. The bill was found to be unconstitutional and never became law. Number 82. Disbarred attorney Jack Thompson was often in the media with his attempts to ban Grand Theft Auto games. Take-Two rebutted, saying that Thompson's lawsuits violated their First Amendment rights. Eventually, after almost 5 years of suits, both sides settled, basically agreeing to stop threatening each other with the law. Number 83. He did, however, make it into GTA 4, unofficially as a lawyer called Tom Goldberg, who says the line "guns don't kill people, video games do," a quote that has often been misattributed to Thompson. Once again, he threatened to sue Take-Two over the character if they weren't removed before its release. The character remained, and Thompson never followed through. Number 84. Thompson isn't the only person to attempt to sue Rockstar and Take-Two over the GTA games. Lindsay Lohan also threatened to sue over her likeness being used as an inspiration for Lacey Jonas, and Mob Wives personality Karen Gravano attempted legal action over Andrea Bertino's storyline. Neither were successful. Number 85. It's less common to hear that Take-Two is on the prosecution side of the court, but back in 2008, Take-Two filed a suit against the Chicago Transit Authority for pulling their adverts for GTA 4 without providing adequate explanation. Number 86. The $300,000 contract between the pair stated that ads would run between April and June of 2008, but they were pulled. The blacklisting of GTA adverts was similarly adopted by Denver, Boston, and Portland in Oregon. Number 87. In fact, the Grand Theft Auto series holds a Guinness World Record for the most controversial video game series in history, with over 4,000 articles published about it. Number 88. Decapitation was introduced in GTA 3 and continued in Vice City, San Andreas, Liberty City Stories, and Vice City Stories. Vice City also introduced the katana, a weapon that allowed players to behead their enemies. Decapitation was later taken out of the HD games though, most likely because of the improved graphics and higher realism. Number 89. Despite the removal of decapitation, the game had been de-decapitated? Is that? No. Anyway. Images of dismemberment are still around in the HD universe. It can't be done by the player themselves, but it can be seen in specific missions and on the in-game website exceptthechaos.com. Number 90. We've spoken about women and minorities, but there are also only 2 child characters in the entire series. These are Mary Beth Williams in Vice City Stories and Jill von Krastenberg in GTA 4. This is because harming children is a step too far for an M-rated video game. That's just a line that never gets crossed, and it's probably a good thing. Number 91. There's a movie called Grand Theft Auto made in 1977 by Ron Howard. The rights to the named series were split so that Fox could not make a GTA game and Rockstar can't make a GTA movie. So anyone hoping for a Rockstar-made GTA game movie, first of all, why? But also give up on that dream.
Game movies almost always suck. Do not do it.
Number 92. The Grand Theft Auto series as a whole is the 13th highest grossing video game franchise of all time and the 7th highest selling video game franchise in history. That might not sound as incredible as you expect, but when you're against Mario and Pokemon, that's pretty amazing. Number 93. To date, the Grand Theft Auto titles have sold over 270 million copies of their games. Almost half of these, by the way, are GTA 5. Number 94. GTA holds a number of other world records, including most guest stars in a video game series, largest voice cast in a video game at the time for GTA San Andreas, largest in-game soundtrack at the time for GTA 4, and most successful entertainment launch of all time, GTA 5. Number 95. According to Wealth Record, Rockstar Games' net worth is over $3.5 billion. A large chunk of this is attributable to the Grand Theft Auto series, and especially Grand Theft Auto Online, which pulls in a substantial amount of money even 7 years after the game's release, which is probably why they're still milking it dry. Number 96. Rockstar's immense success has allowed the company to continue working to help communities, usually donating over $250 million towards various programs that work to enhance living standards. Number 97. Even in 2020, during the coronavirus pandemic, Rockstar pledged to donate 5% of the revenue created by GTA Online and Red Dead Online to help communities around their studios. The exact amount of money raised is unclear, but it's sure to be a crap ton, considering GTA alone brings in around $250 million a year. Number 98. Grand Theft Auto 64 also existed for a brief amount of time, and just in case you're wondering what happened to GTA...
I knew it might go out, so yeah, we're just gonna finish up the video and, you know, get into the outro after that, and yeah, so let's get back into it and play.
Would have been a port for the PlayStation version of GTA 1 to the Nintendo 64 with enhanced graphics and added levels. It was cancelled before public previews were released. There were similar plans for the Sega Saturn, but these met a similar fate. Number 99. I know I mentioned Jolo Trulio earlier, but the games have featured a ton of celebrities within them, including Samuel L. Jackson, Gary Busey, Debbie Harry, Axl Rose, James Wood, Danny Trejo, and Will Wheaton. Number 100. I mentioned Phil Collins earlier, but Laszlo Jones comes under the same category. These two were the only celebrities that appeared as themselves within the GTA universe in main missions, and not just radio appearances. Number 101. All of the core GTA games since the 3D universe have had a delayed release. GTA 3 was delayed by 3 weeks to make changes post 9/11, Vice City and San Andreas were both delayed by a week, and GTA's 4 and 5 were both delayed by 6 months in order to polish and debug their games. A shame other publishers didn't take note of that, isn't it? So those aren't one.
Kinda sucks. But yeah, that was the last fact of the video. So yeah, talk to you guys in the next video, which will probably be tomorrow, and peace.